Tonight, the RSPCA warns about the dangers local dog parks can have on puppies. And the Nationals make a stop in Broken Hill as they vie to reclaim a seat they held for nearly 8 decades.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. John Hunt filling in for Madeleine Kerr. First tonight, the RSPCA has raised concerns about the impact dog parks can have on young puppies. As more pop up in our region, they warn just one uncontrolled dog could leave lasting impacts on others.
It's becoming a divisive subject among Spencer Golf communities. While some councils are promoting their benefits, other animal owners see dog parks as a stressful environment. The RSPCA warning that they can become hostile environments and even spread disease.
We are a little cautious at the RSPCA about dog parks. While it's a lovely idea to take your dog there and to have it run around and make new friends, that unfortunately is not always what happens.
They say there have been incidents of pets being released and then creating dangerous situations.
Particularly for young puppies, those early months of their life, is really critical that every experience that they have is very, very positive. So we would not recommend taking a young puppy to a dog park.
Port Lincoln Council is reviewing plans to build a dog park at Puckridge Place after initial community pushback halted the build at Nelson Square in 2021.
To incorporate a dog park in that area sounds like a great way to, make that space reactivated again.
Plans for a pet-centred facility in Port Augusta have also been divisive, while Whyalla has had one since 2015. The RSPCA says a park's success correlates with the responsibility of the pet owners.
Be mindful of what other people are doing with their dogs so that your dog stays safe.
Edwin McCarroll, 7 Spencer Golf News.
As national discussion on the Indigenous voice to Parliament continues, South Australia looks set to make history. The state government's own version looks set to come into force by the end of the year, with no major opposition to it inside Parliament.
An historic moment is rapidly approaching for South Australia. The legislation for an SA voice to Parliament is expected to pass both houses, first in the Legislative Council, where the first reading is expected tomorrow.
Hopeful that in fact most of the South Australian Parliament is not only willing to respect that Uluru Statement from the Heart and enshrine a voice to state Parliament, but work productively to make it the best it can be.
The SA Greens agreed to back the SA voice last month, giving Labor the majority it needs in the upper house to pass the legislation to amend the state's constitution. Member for Giles, Eddie Hughes, says the voice will give a consultative role for Aboriginal South Australians.
We do have an Aboriginal Lands Parliamentary Standing Committee, and I've always found it a bit strange. I'm on it. A whole bunch of white people going out to remote communities, coming back to the Parliament and making recommendations. And I go, yeah, surely it should be Aboriginal people that are doing that.
The legislation has been the result of months of discussions between Aboriginal groups and organisations from across the state, including the Spencer Gulf, and elections for the voice are due as early as this year. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Nationals leader and the candidate for the seat of Barwon have pressed to flesh in Broken Hill ahead of next month's state election. The pair taking time to speak to the city's business owners as they look to reclaim the seat.
It was once a National Party stronghold. Now they are doing all they can to win back the seat of Barwon, the biggest electorate in New South Wales.
I'll also be coming after those seats that we don't hold. We want to take some of those seats back, and that's why I'm out here in Barwon. There's a very strong message here. The Nats are back. We're coming after this seat.
It's expected to be a tight race, but the Deputy Premier is confident in his party and candidate Annette Turner. He also believes the Nationals will be able to get the ailing Liberal Party over the line.
Well, I think we all know it's going to be a tight election, and this seat will be no different. But what I have here is a candidate who is a very long-standing member of this community.
Born in Broken Hill, Ms Turner now lives on a sheep station in Whitecliffs. She is not worried about the travel she could face if elected.
But I'm not fazed by the distance. I travel 600 kilometres round trip for a haircut, or I've left my phone on mum's table. So it doesn't faze me. I love a challenge.
a former state president of the New South Wales CWA. Ms Turner feels she has the experience to win the seat back from Roy Butler. It looms as an interesting battle, especially since he is no longer with the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party.
After being a state president of a rather large, what is recognised as the most powerful female lobbying group in Australia, in New South Wales, I felt that I had the qualifications to stand up and be an advocate.
The New South Wales election will be held on March 25. Joshua Mercer, 7, Spencer Gulf News.
A driver has blown more than 3 times the legal limit after being stopped in Port Lincoln in the early hours of this morning. Just after midnight, police pulled over a station wagon on Liverpool Street for a random breath test. The driver, a 22-year-old local woman, allegedly returned a reading of .159. The woman was issued with a 12-month instant loss of licence and will be summoned to appear in court at a later date. Still to come tonight, Port Augusta's renovated pool reopens to the public, and local stargazers running out of time to witness a once-in-a-lifetime space phenomenon. Welcome back. Port Augusta locals looking to escape the city's scorching summer heat can now do so at their revamped local swimming centre. The Ryan Mitchell pool has had a soft reopening ahead of an official opening later in the year. The pool was closed last year for extensive upgrades to improve what's on offer.
The efforts of obviously our manager up here, Mrs Sylvia Hogg, she's been incredible in actually bringing this to fruition. The staff of the council have been amazing, and of course our contractors. Everybody has gone over and above to get this facility open, and it's just incredible.
The upgrades cost $3 million to complete. The much-anticipated green comet C22E3 crossed into the southern hemisphere this week, with local astronomers scanning the sky since Saturday. However, they say unfavourable conditions have made the once-in-a-lifetime show almost invisible in our region.
Today is the last possible chance for South Australians to catch a glimpse of a rare green comet. Incredible images captured in the US have sent local astronomers into a stir, trying to spot something that hasn't passed through our solar system for over 50,000 years.
We can learn a lot about the origin of our solar system and what the conditions were like early on.
Astronomers started scanning South Australian skies on Saturday, but 2 nights on, they say sightings have been underwhelming. Currently hovering only 5 degrees above the horizon with a full moon illuminating the night sky, the comet has been almost impossible to see in the Spencer Gulf.
I couldn't see it. My colleague in Victoria did see it. He took a photograph of it. It's just a faint smudge.
The Astronomical Society of South Australia says the object will continue to climb higher into the sky over the coming days, but at the same time it will move further away from the Earth, meaning we may have missed out. So amateur astronomers who were planning to set out with one of these tonight will receive an underwhelming light show compared to what they were expecting, with the view only to become worse in coming days.
You need, essentially it's an electronic imaging telescope, one that takes images by itself. It's basically a telescope with a very sensitive camera on it. You put your eye to the telescope, you almost certainly won't see it.
Let's wish upon a star that we have better luck next time. Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
In Australia, a stroke occurs every 19 minutes, but the good news is that up to 80% of them are preventable. Copper Coast residents are invited to an event this Wednesday that will give them the tools to spot one.
A sobering statistic for our region. 3,714 stroke survivors live in our community across the electorate of Grey. Those living in the Copper Coast are this week being invited to learn from one of the Stroke Foundation's volunteer speakers.
Many of which have had a stroke themselves, or family members or friends that have had a stroke, and they really are there to provide information about what a stroke is, the signs and symptoms of a stroke, what to do if somebody has a stroke.
And most importantly, learning how to prevent a stroke. Some of the biggest risk factors, like high blood pressure and high cholesterol, can be addressed through a healthy lifestyle. Research also shows those living in regional and remote areas are 17% more likely to suffer one.
It's to do with access to health services, access to good food, access to initiatives such as exercise and, community sporting groups.
Organisers believe learning the warning signs can help you act fast, as strokes can affect anyone. They say it is never too early to learn.
The biggest age group where strokes are happening in Australia at the moment is that younger age group, so the working age young adults. So that is very concerning.
The event is this Wednesday at Kadina Town Hall. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Coming up after the break, we get a sneak peek at what Theatre 44 has on offer in Broken Hill this year. And we go around the region and check out the weekend's local cricket results. Welcome back. A new report has revealed the impact of workplace injury on those affected and the South Australian economy. The McKell Institute estimates the state's economy loses $106 million each year, with the system also leaving many in poverty, with around 11,000 employees expected to be impacted by 2030. The Institute is calling for reforms to help those in need. Attorney General Kaya Ma has told The Advertiser the government is consulting with a view to making changes to the system. The start of 2023 is going to be a big one for Broken Hill's Theatre 44. From learning to play ukulele to visiting musicians and 2 plays, there's an activity for everyone, from the novice to the well-established singer.
After a long summer, local performing is back in action at a well-known Silver City theatre. If you've always wanted to learn how to play Israel Kamakavivole's version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, you have a chance on Wednesday evening.
The first thing that's happening is the ukulele club. Can you play the ukulele? If you can't play the ukulele, come along to the club and they'll teach you.
This Sunday, a well-known folk singer will take to the stage and entertain the crowd.
Kim Churchill, who is going to do a concert here at 5 o'clock on Sunday the 12th.
Later this year, musical theatre fans will be treated to a production of Reedy River, a musical about the 1891 Shearers' Union strike. It will be directed by a former Home and Away star.
Lynn Collingwood, who used to be in Home and Away, she's coming out to direct it, and I'm the musical director.
Or if you prefer comedy, then maybe Hobart Higgins and the Hours of Death might be more your speed. The play has been written by theatre volunteer Armando LeCoul.
Hobart Higgins is a takeoff from Sherlock Holmes, and it's a radio show. And the actual thing is done as a radio play on stage.
Mr. LeCoul has also managed to get some equipment for the theatre, donated by theatre practitioners in Melbourne. It should be ready by Sunday. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Turning to sport now, and despite some Friday rain, our local cricket teams enjoyed good playing conditions over the weekend. Most leagues are now getting busy as the race to the finals heats up. Here's Annabelle Francis with this week's Cricket Wrap.
Friday night's rain saw the clash between Port Pirie's topside Props and Southport moved from Memorial Oval to Senate Road. However, the change of venue didn't get in the way of a great game. Props won the toss and elected to bat first. Southport knew there was no room for mistake and were impressive when it came to bowling. In particular, Trey Latira and Fraser Wyatt stood out, with 22 runs and 7 wickets between them. Despite putting up a good fight, Props were just too good, winning by a solid 32 runs. Props, Austin Waters and Tyson Hornshell both having a big match, both scoring 24. Over at Port Oval, there was a lot riding on the Port Germain-Wandera clash. Port Germain needed a win to keep their slight finals chances alive, and they made it happen, but only just claiming victory by 7 runs. Moving to Port Augusta, where teams entered round 8. West Augusta took on Corn at Chinnery Park, and it was a close match from the start. Both sides' batting was impressive throughout. Corn's Joel Finlay made 46 runs, and West Augusta's Mark Meyer scored 49. Corn too good in the end, scoring a 4-wicket win. Meanwhile, South Augusta were too strong in their clash against the Tigers. A 109-run partnership between Will Waterworth and Craig Shirley helping South cruise to an 8-wicket win. Moving to Port Lincoln, where teams entered round 11, and Wayback's bowlers were too strong for Tasman. After setting Tasman a target of 148 to win, Chris Berryman and his bowling unit routed through Tassie's batters, skittling them for just 83. At Dorwood Oval, Charlton cemented their position in second place with a big win over Todd River. They made light work of the target of 107, chasing it down inside 25 overs. Moving on to Whyalla now. Andrew Pina made light work of North Whyalla, demonstrating why they're on top of the ladder. The Roos bowlers too strong for the Magpies, winning by 51 runs. Central Whyalla had the bye. And finally, in Broken Hill, it was round 13 in their league. West had a tight win over North, with the match going down to the wire. The other contest not as close. Central too strong for the Roos, thumping them by 8 wickets. That's it for Cricket Wrap this week. We'll be back tomorrow with more sporting results.
Stay with us after the break. Port Lincoln makes it onto one of the country's most exclusive lists. And we'll have the weather details with Alex Sykes. Hello again. Port Lincoln's reputation as a must-visit tourism destination has received a boost, with the seafood capital of Australia ranked number 3 on Booking.com's list of the country's most welcoming towns. The accommodation provider placing the city ahead of iconic places such as Coles Bay in Tasmania and Margaret River in Western Australia. Victorian destinations took out the top 2 positions, with Halls Gap ranked 2nd and Port Campbell finishing 1st. Turning to the weather now, and it's looking like it will be a scorcher across most parts of the Spencer Gulf and Broken Hill this week. Alex Sykes joins us with all the details. Alex, how hot will it get?
Good evening, John. Well, summer is still packing a punch, with temperatures expected to remain quite warm for most of the working week. More details on that later, but first, let's take a look at today's temperatures. Cooper Pedy reached a sweltering 35 degrees this afternoon. Woodna got to a top of 34, and Port Pirie also had a typical summer's day. The city was sunny and 33. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, Port Lincoln a little cooler, 24 the top there. Similar conditions in Adelaide, the state capital, reaching 25. Port Augusta was 35. Broken Hill got to 32 degrees, as did Kadina. Taking a look at the satellite image now, and as you can see, skies are clear across most of South Australia, with dry air under high pressure dominating the state. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Southwesterly winds tomorrow 15 to 20 knots, reaching 25 knots south of Port Neal in the evening. Seas 1 to 1.5 metres, and the swells south-southwesterly 2 to 4 metres. The Eyre Peninsula can expect almost similar conditions tomorrow. Port Lincoln is set to reach a high of 26 degrees, 31 and sunny in Cleve, while Woodna residents will need the air conditioner tomorrow, the town expecting 37. Looking further north now, a fine and sunny Tuesday is expected in Whyalla, the Still City, set to reach a top of 32 degrees. Warmer in Port Augusta, 37 in the Jewel of the North tomorrow, and Kadina will be 33 and sunny. A hot one in Port Pirie, 36 and sunny there. Clare is set to reach a high of 32 degrees, and over the border in Broken Hill, it'll be 34 with clear skies. Taking a look further through the week now, on Wednesday, Cooper Pedy and Woodna will be the region's warmest, both expecting 39. Whyalla is set for 34, as is Kadina. Port Lincoln a little more comfortable, just 27 forecast there, 38 in Port Augusta. It gets even warmer on Thursday. Port Augusta, Woodna and Cooper Pedy all look set to reach a high of 40 degrees. Adelaide will be 34, Whyalla 36, Broken Hill 35, Port Lincoln the region's coolest, 30 expected there. Those conditions show no sign of easing on Friday. Northern areas will be around the 40 mark. Towns and cities south of Port Augusta will be in the mid-30s. Port Lincoln will be the place to escape the heat, 26 degrees there. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. Stay cool and remember to slip, slop, slap and drink plenty of water in these conditions. I'll see you a little later with an update, but for now, it's back to you, John.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Monday. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later tonight, and the team will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.